dig it? Can you dig it? Ladies, gentlemen, friends, foes, lurkers, regulars, GMO people, organic people. Boiler room, inbound. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Good evening, fellow liberty lovers. I don't know that modern democracy has much to offer us in that department, but we're here to see if we can find any in tonight's main event. That's right. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. Holy crap. Okay, let's go through the W4, the who, the what, the where, and the why. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, obviously. Former President Trump and Vice President Harris face off tonight for the first time in a ABC presidential debate. This is happening at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. We're told, as far as why, we're told, we're skeptical, but we're told this is a high stakes showdown, and the polls are showing a tight race. 8 weeks before election day. So as we approach election day, here we go. I guess that was what was that last thing we saw? Was that a false start? Trump versus Biden? My goodness. Okay, and it looks like we're gonna have a panel with us tonight to include everybody I'm about to introduce here, and probably a couple pop-ins. But let's get right to it. Get everybody in the room here. We're gonna welcome Based Lit Analyzer into the boiler room here. Based, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
What's up? Looks like he got the expert on here for the thing. Yeah, no, this is gonna be fun. When was the last one that we did? It was June, May. When was the last debate? I don't even remember when the last one was.
Like
Biden.
I don't know. Let's see.
Seems so long ago.
The Biden debate. Yeah, how long ago was that? My goodness. Looks like, yeah, that was June, late June.
Yeah, well, we're in a different world now, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the same. Who knows? I don't know.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, how things change, although kind of expected some of these changes, but here we are, man. Really glad to have you with us tonight. Let's get into it. Let's welcome Grunt Smash next. We got Grunt Smash dropping into the boiler room. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
What's going on? This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Hopefully no alcohol poisoning, but if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But
we'll be careful. It may not be up to us. It may not be up to us.
Cheers.
All right. Yeah. Cheers. Okay. Let's welcome Infidel Pharaoh to the stage here. Infidel. Oh, look at that. We're live on camera, just so you know, man. Yeah, they've got the Maha repping there on Infidel Pharaoh. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Thanks. How are you?
Very good. Glad to see you.
Glad to see you too.
All right. Any predictions tonight?
It's gonna be fun. We'll see.
All right.
How many IQ points will I lose tonight? That's
now we're talking.
My bad.
Never mind blood alcohol level. How much dumber are we gonna be afterward?
That's right.
All right, cool, man. Cool. Let's welcome. We got a very special guest here. Been a while since he's joined us. Whitebird joining us now. Whitebird, what up? Welcome to the boiler room.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
My liver's gonna save democracy tonight.
That's right.
I've got some Cerveza lagers for my Venezuelan brethren in Aurora, Colorado tonight, so I don't offend any of them.
All right. Nice one. Okay, glad to have you here tonight. Let's welcome Ruckus. Ruckus, what's up? Welcome. Ruckus is in the spin room, I think. Ruckus, what's up? Welcome to the show.
I am actually on site tonight. Here we go. There I am.
Yes.
But I haven't. I'm in the green room. I'm about to get my makeup and everything done. So excuse the hair and the outfit. It'll probably be a little bit better here in a minute or so once the stuff happens. But my goodness, Elvis has joined us. Nice to see you, Whitebird. This is going to be a blast. All right, so yeah, you guys get the game started. I put out the blast on social media, so make sure you guys like and share that so everyone can join us. Play along. We're doing a drinking game. I don't know what everybody else is drinking, but I'm doing it for the ladies tonight. I'm drinking something called Goddess Hazy India Pale Ale, and I guess the proceeds go to women who make beer. So shout out to all the ladies who make beer.
All right.
So anyway, but
can
yeah,
get
thanks for
behind it.
having me. Let's do this.
Okay. All right. We may have a couple more joining us as we get into it here, but tell you what, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and share this screen. Let's take a look. It looks like we're joining it in progress. So let's see where we're at.
Kamala has just spoke, and Trump is in the middle of his rebuttal here.
I heard there was no opening statements, which is very odd for a so-called debate.
Are we briefly outlining the drinking rules?
Okay, here they are, real quick. For Kamala, fake accents. If she says "I'm speaking" to cut him off or stop from being cut off. If she overuses and overemphasizes the word "weird," mentions of Project 2025, racism / white supremacy, and reproductive rights. I'll post these in the Discord and in the private chat here so you guys can all track them. And then for Trump, it's health stuff, Maha, right? Any Maha oriented, lawfare claims, stolen policies, pro-Israel commentary, or Hamas, Marxism, communism, China, and illegals. All right, so that's sort of our list. And if anyone's brave enough to do a fatality, finish him sort of mega drink, it's an aggressive mention of October 7th or Hamas by Trump, or Kamala saying unburdened from what has been, which we think is the long shot. So those are the Trump one may not be a long shot, but the Kamala one hopefully is if her team did a anywhere near decent job. So
just a heads up. First thing that popped on X was Lauren Boebert saying, "Where'd Kamala's accent go?" And it was posted 3 seconds ago and has 438 likes as of 3 seconds ago.
I'll drink to
She's
that.
a code switcher.
All right. All right, here we go. Let's bring it in. Let's bring in the noise here.
What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025.
Oh, snap. Oh, snap.
You were elected.
Shit, that was fast.
I believe very strongly
Rapid fire.
the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns.
Oh,
we
dude,
got
ventilators
masks.
kill people. Don't say that.
Look it, that's
People
terrible.
give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs.
Great
bounce
jobs
back,
with
and
the
it bounced
pandemic.
back, and it
Oh,
went
that's
to their
terrible.
benefit.
I
But
want
was the one that
ventilators. She
created them.
wants
They know it, and
ventilators.
so does
That's the
everybody
difference.
else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I
this old one.
describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economy in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy.
Exactly.
What the Wharton
Goldman
School
Sachs
has said is
endorsed your
Donald
plan,
Trump's plan.
bitch.
Yeah.
What
Right?
does that mean?
Seriously.
What does that mean?
They wrote her plan.
Exactly.
She comes right out and just
Like,
takes
come
Goldman
on,
Sachs.
that's so dumb. That's so
Jesus.
dumb.
Fuck yeah. Where does your stepdaughter live?
Goldman Sachs endorsed my plan.
Would
Funnily enough, they endorsed Donald Trump's plan last time too. How many of them did he employ when he came in?
All of them.
Yeah.
And all
actually
of his gang.
explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year invite a recession.
There you go. Your numbers fallacy.
17 intelligence agencies.
There it is.
50 million Elvis fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. We're gonna be wasted.
Authoritative sources, numbers.
Session.
Yeah.
You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues.
Ruckus
I'd
is
invite
getting
you to know
ready.
What is happening?
that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
Oh, why does that say it?
I gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring
My
up
uncle
our
was a rocket scientist.
value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off,
You almost said company.
doesn't have a plan. She copied.
He did.
You almost said company.
He was gonna say
fucking shyster.
for our company. I mean,
I'll drink to that, Don.
That's all right. That's all right. I rather someone treat the
Fuck
damn
yeah.
country as a company.
Exactly.
This
I'll
is
drink.
about damn time.
This is for you, you orange
Trim
fuck.
the fats.
Copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year.
Higher than right
Do you
now?
believe America?
Right?
Yeah, I know, right?
They're more worried about trickle down from tariffs to
And how
foreign
is
countries.
tariffs increasing gas prices, dumbasses? Your green damn policy increased gas prices.
Yeah.
All right. I will drink all right, I've got a pint of Maker's Mark. I'll down that whole thing.
Holy
if any
shit.
one of them mentions the Federal Reserve at any point.
All right.
We don't have Ron Paul here.
Yeah, I don't think Ron
it's
Paul
going to be full tomorrow.
He's not even allowed to be in the audience because there's no audience. We can't even hear like Ron shouting from the back.
So stupid. Don't mention the 30% budget expansion in the last 3 years.
Oh, no.
Flooding the world. No, it's just greedy corporations.
Yeah, we can't have real numbers.
Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries. that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars.
The captions on Fox said, "Cut the terrorists."
Cut the okay.
Like with switchblade drones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Must be AI closed captions.
I fully support tariffs.
Tariffs are great.
Had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that
We
the
forgot.
administration.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. You didn't build
Hey,
that.
at least he's asking questions, not just feeding her fucking ice cream
Yeah.
bullshit like they did to Biden.
So she has the same NLP anchors that Obama does.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
She
be
does.
clear. That's
Yeah.
one of hers. And
Yep.
she has a few of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
everybody's stolen that one from Obama. I'm sure he stole it from someone else, but he really perfected it and used it a lot. But
Norman Lear is rolling in his grave right now.
Did anybody check to see if this bitch had an earpiece in? I don't think she's smart enough to have these kinds of conversations.
it would be on her right ear probably. So she's got the hair helmet like a little more off over that right ear and the angle
I
of
was
the
noticing
camera.
that.
So I wouldn't be surprised. Would not be. I mean, are they even real at this point? There's no audience there. They could just be. We could
And
be.
also could be deep fake. Who knows?
So
Yeah.
the last debate had about an 8-minute delay.
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
So I don't know what
interesting.
this one
I wonder
has.
about
Even
this
though it
one.
was live.
Yeah. Even if it. Yeah. It is live, but they can define live as like an 8-minute delay apparently. Yeah, and they still don't bother to edit out all the gaffes. It's really weird. All right. Here we go.
Resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military. Basically sold us
Microprocessors.
out
Remember in The
when a
Departed?
policy about
Yeah.
China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of
Hunter
what that
Biden did that.
requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we
can we
win
pause
the
for a
race.
second?
Yeah.
Whose allies? You mean Germany, that we are actually deindustrializing intentionally and turning them into consumer market? We deindustrialized Germany by design.
Yeah.
What allies? You mean Israel? You want to buy ships from Israel?
It's amazing how she's leaning into so many geopolitical issues here to assuade people, but I mean it's you can tell there's a lot of like well, we know she's geopolitically pretty much illiterate, but they're leaning into the fact that the public is very much geopolitically illiterate too, I think here.
Yep.
Yeah. Allies means MIC client states.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Military industrial complex. That's why you've got
That's what it is.
That's why you've got Cheney endorsing her. You know, it's like whichever he's going to endorse. He's a war profiteer, so he's going to endorse whichever one is going to ensure more war.
Even Robert F. Kennedy jumped on and said Goldman Sachs approves Kamala Harris's plan. Not sure
There
if
you
that's
go.
something I'd be posting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
RFK.
Yeah, that was a big gaffe on her part. That was so uncalled for, unnecessary, wrong thing to say.
I think I'm just gonna follow Twitter, and so if you see random memes like the one I just posted, just gonna get some entertainment.
All right, cool.
On AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what
AI and quantum computing, like this matters to anyone in the current environment. People are like, please just don't do World War III. Please just don't, don't do cyber polygon. It's just like,
learn to code.
That
You can't afford cereal. Learn to code.
learn to code.
Yeah.
Sorry, now that you've learned to code 8 years later, there won't be any more coders.
I know. AI will replace your coders.
Yep. Pretty much just uncalled for. I mean, what a long-term grift there. Ouch.
we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights.
Can you guys hear that?
But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, ! When we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
She's the COVID truther now.
Wait a minute.
Oh, man.
What?
He called it the China virus, bitch.
Oh my God! So the DNC thinks they can be the Wuhan lab conspiracy people now?
Yep, I guess.
Did that just break in front of us?
I guess.
Holy shit! I thought that was a right-wing Trumpian conspiracy.
That's a spin.
Wow.
That got you
Okay.
banned from Facebook for over a year.
I know, man. Like none of us could even say anything about that before it was okay for the right wing to say it in 22, and now the left wing is saying it. You got to be kidding me.
I think you still can't say that stuff.
Yeah, in many cases. And is it just me, or am I remembering properly here? Her running mate is like a regular in China. Like he goes there all the time. He has wedding there. He goes.
He's the snitch line guy.
Yeah. Mr. Snitchline.
Is that where he gets his horses?
Yeah. That's where he gets his 10%.
That's right.
Taiwan, we hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy, but if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And
That's a good one.
It'd be the end of our country.
Well, she wants to build the wall now.
You know what? I think that was actually a trigger
That's
there.
actually true. That is true.
Stolen
flipping.
policies. That's a Trump stolen policies one.
Oh yeah. Cheers.
What was the number on how much New York spent for the migrants that were bust up? Because it was more than the wall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you mean the hotels they are hosting them in right now?
Yeah. And there's like there's the inside game where they're overcharging and overbilling the government. So there's like a lot of graft going on, but it's definitely more than the wall.
Oh yeah.
Like they were talking like $8 billion for this racist wall, and they've spent that in New York alone. Like
10, according to worth.com, 10 million.
Million just for New York?
I'm sorry, billion.
Okay. Okay. Now
I'm sorry. I was like, wait a second. No, billion, 10 billion.
Yeah. And that's for like
there's a million.
Yeah. And that's for like a year. You know, you buy a structure, it's there, and it just needs upkeep. You do this.
It's weird that they're both falling into this, like the other person has no policy argument. They're both out arguing each other on the other person has no policy. When Trump should be saying, no, she has a policy, but the policy is now, or a globalist policy or whatever it is, and double down on the thing that has already been going on. I don't know why he keeps falling into using.
Yeah, 100%, dude. 100%.
Yeah. This is I'm a little surprised at how this is going.
He's also very low energy at the very beginning of this. That you can tell with his body language and his responses that he's trying to do what he did last time in the Biden thing, which is like be the moderate, stoic candidate, which is the opposite of what he did in the last round in 2020. He's trying to be a more moderate and show that he sort of is Teflon Don. Stuff sort of bounces off him, and she obviously, like who said this, infidel, that she was obviously coached by. She's obviously got Obama in her corner, so she's doing the same body language, the same, whatever she's doing with her hands, all of her like hand signs, her facial expressions are all. It's very different from how she.
Dude, RFK is picking up on the. He just posted right now. VP Harris sounds like she just admitted the COVID virus originated in the lab. That was one of the conspiracy theories the Biden-Harris administration censored the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, that's
nice self-goal, bitch. I mean, ma'am.
Ma'am, Vice President.
Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics.
Another one.
But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump. Thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue.
Well, there was at least two in there. My goodness, we got them.
I gotta slow down.
I know, man.
I can tell you what this is. I can tell you what this lady's going to bring up. Her thing is going to be abortion. I know that because I saw it ahead of time. But you can tell from her body language that that's what it's going to be. I want to bring it to the lady, right? To bring up the the repro rights
Abortion
argument. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
So Kevin Sorbo just posted on Twitter and said, if Kamala really is black, have her say the N-word. Let the people decide for themselves.
Oh,
Damn. Savage.
Oh, yeah. All right. Looks like Truth Hound's joining us in a moment here. Let's continue.
Of abortion, President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud
Interesting
to be
verb.
the most pro-life
Interesting choice of verbs there.
history.
Yeah.
Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks.
Well,
But
she
then
got her
the
Howard
very
Hughes
next
outfit
day,
on.
You reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that
Well, this
women
debate
shouldn't
is good
trust
for
you
women.
on
If
the
this
issue
beer is
of
really benefiting women, then score.
Yeah.
I don't know what your question was, but those shoulder pads are bigger than Ivana Trump's shoulder pads in 1986.
It's a 90s throwback, dude.
Wait, where is Mark drink? Hey, Mark, you need to have a drink.
Oh, I'll have to get that in a few minutes. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be a Shirley Temple or a Coke, or can it be a beer?
It could be beers.
We recommend beer.
We recommend beer.
For Bays, he's on Red Bull.
The
I'm on Red
TV,
Bull.
I was watching this on TV. The TV is way ahead of the internet. What you see on TV is probably the better part of a minute and a half ahead of what you see online.
Oh, we keep pausing too, so we're
we're like 10 minutes.
Sorry, we're riffing. It's called a little trolling. We do a little trolling.
Yeah.
Donald Trump doesn't know how to argue the abortion issue, and in so doing, I won't say he's losing to Kamala on that issue, but he's not really winning either, because I already heard it up ahead of what we've heard here. One of the key things, regardless of where you stand on the issue, is she'll say, well, there's reproductive rights. You can't tell a woman what to do with her body. All he has to say is there's another body involved. It's not a strictly autonomous thing. When you're pregnant, there's another human being inside of you. And it's amazing that such a fundamental argument is overlooked by Trump, because then it opens it up to reproductive rights for whom? Okay, reproductive rights for the woman to maybe deny that baby a life, but what about the reproductive right to life of the child itself? See, from the pro-life angle, Donald Trump is completely missing the ethical and moral argument. He's simply going, I'm going to give it back to the states. I'm going to give it back to the states. He sounds like one of the Bowery boys. Not unintelligent, but repetitive and shallow and limited. It's like he has the passion, but not the intellect.
Yeah.
He's not the bookish sort. Let's just admit he's passionate. He has some principles, but he's not well read.
Yeah, and I can tell you, majority of the country agree that as time passes, abortion becomes more and more unethical, right? So nobody, like the percentage of the countries that support at 8 weeks is completely different than those supporting at 8 months. The percentage that support 8-month abortion is like 1% or 2% at the extreme mad people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's why leaving it up to states' rights is the constitutional thing to do, but it's not the ethical thing to do. Because if you have some hobgoblin governor or legislature that can pass it in their state, then he could just say, I left it up to the states, and that's his cop-out, and his,
It becomes like a lottery.
Abortion? Does it count if we talk about abortion?
Yeah, counts.
Yes.
Cheers.
But it's also and this might be a little more basic, but a lot of people don't. When the Roe v. Wade decision got overturned, I know we talked about it on Boiler Room a few times. Nobody understood that it went back to the state's decision, right? And then nobody understands that even though we all feel like we don't have a huge hand in politics start at the local level, in my opinion, and you have more of a say, whether it be a small margin or not, more of a say in your state and your local and your city and town and all the other stuff. But the at least in my belief, the people that are for that 8-month term abortion don't understand how these things work. These are the clawing at the sky, screaming bloody murder at, you know, the fucking concrete people that don't understand or care to understand the facts behind the case.
Or they do understand it and they see it as a satanic sacrament. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, right. But it's similar to like the you know, a lot of, you know, extreme right wingers are like, no abortion, period. Well, I agree to an extent, but at the same time, you have to realize that there's I mean, and is me as well. But there Trump wants exceptions to rape, incest, and things like that. The problem is that the facts and the statistics for rape and incest are fucking ridiculously tiny. It's a minuscule fucking portion that is one of those two things.
Here is my rebuttal to this whole abortion thing. Sorry. Anybody that talks about abortion in this election is an idiot. Like, they are fucking replacing you right now, real time. They are doing racial replacement of white people with bunch of imported colored people from other nations, and they are pushing you to get abortions. If you don't see that they are destroying this nation and you're going to vote for Kamala because of freaking abortion, you're a moron and you deserve to be replaced.
Why are you
Let me
such a
add
white
something to
supremacist,
that.
infidel? I mean, I know you were born that way.
Because I'm a brown man. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
That's a very, very excellent observation. Okay, maybe it's correlation without causation, but it is strange, isn't it, that as people pour in illegally from other countries, there's this nudging and the way the media handles the abortion issue. And it looks like they want fewer native-born Americans and more foreign-born people. It looks that way. It smells that way. It appears to be that way. And it's all but certain that that's what's going on. That the larger agenda of abortion is simply to have fewer people born, if you want to say it, indigenously, national Americans, you know, born in their own country, born up to American parents. Far fewer of those, or at least get rid of as many as they can while they open that border wide. It's hard to ignore that correlation.
Well, because it's the easiest way of destroying the nation, to get rid of the like racist constitution, right? Is to replace the population that were born in the principles of this nation, or the population that are being born with native parents that are putting in them the American principles, and bringing like foreigners that don't even care about the American principles, foreigners that didn't come here in a legal manner because they are seeking the American principles, like people like us, and instead the people that are just coming here to turn America into a shithole.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to the
And to
debate.
eat cats and ducks. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I
part.
know.
Yeah.
And dogs.
I see
And
Ruckus
dogs,
is
speaking of which, yeah, that's coming up.
Yeah, Ruckus is in the spin room there, Marksy.
he's at the debate. So let's go back. If you want, let's hear a little bit more.
All right.
of the,
Yeah. Let's get into it here. Oh, that's a nice screen. I didn't know I could do that. Look, it's like Ruckus is analyzing it all by himself.
Abortion.
And
he's
Kamala
like
Harris is taking the
changed your
lead. And
position so
wait,
many
and
times.
what's it coming around the
Therefore,
corner? We have
why
Donald
should they
Trump.
trust
He
So
is
the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of.
Wait, pause. Are we supposed to take a drink every time they say abortion? Or was it like?
Oh,
yes.
All right.
I'll
I
go get
wouldn't
more.
do that.
He's going to bring up my old governor here, and it was Virginia, Ralph Northam.
All right.
Yeah, post
The
birth.
previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said
Virginia.
the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the
Northam.
baby. And that's why I did that. Because
And by the way, Ralph Northam did say that. I was listening to the radio interview. It was here. It's a local radio interview. I was listening to it live when he said that. He said, we keep the baby comfortable. And when we talk to the doctor, and we keep the 9 pounds of meat bubble, whatever I was listening to that live when he talked about that. So I don't know what her reaction is going to be, but it was Virginia. And he's talking about how Youngkin is against it now. This whole abortion thing, I mean, is one of my big hangups with him, because I'm obviously totally against it completely, 100% full stop period. But he thinks he's going to win he thinks this is, the media has made this the thing that they are this is the contentious point that he's going to win the middle ground over, and I just don't think there's any, there's any hope on that.
Right. And this is the freaking thing that they've always like had in the back pocket for a political wedge issue. And, just the fact that something even changed after all these years has just actually been quite a heyday for people trying to keep us, stuck in the power politics loop and the outrage loop.
Mm-hmm.
And it really should not be such an issue. Right?
It's also one of those ironies, because now she's posing herself as like the candidate of the rule of law, and the Supreme Court made said the law, so now they're against that. And I also see this whole thing as just another example of just this overall scientific agenda, right? Where it's life is not important. Your body, your choice with your thing, but then that's violated by their whole COVID thing. And then it's also violated by what Infidel was talking about with immigration and how they want further birth rates with immigration, but not with citizens of the country. So it's just continuous chaos and confusion.
Yeah.
They're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important.
Numbers fallacy.
We were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years.
Yep.
Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican,
it's torn babies away from mothers.
All wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote.
And they talk about how many, the Brown Lives Matter, all this Brown life stuff. I mean, which cultural, racial group in our country lost the most lives to this? The most life potential. That one.
Minorities.
Yep.
Not
what
Kamala minorities either.
Right.
No.
Real minorities.
Yeah.
Happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprise.
Ooh, straight to the lies.
The moderators correcting in real time is always.
That was a drinking.
She's fact checking real time. They did this in the 2020 elections, where they were like, it was like a 3v1. And I don't like Donald either, but like, I know. Okay, sorry, I'll drink. Press play.
It's funny that this is a podcast too. I mean, do you see how close they are to the candidates? And it's in a small room. Small audio friendly room. It's a podcast.
Yeah, really.
Can I ask well,
a
by the way, the moderator right there, the way she injected that was professional and smooth. But
Can I just ask a question? I mean, last boiler room, we spoke about sexual abuse in young children, right? Why are we even talking about like pregnancy from incest? Why are we allowing even kids around these people?
Because the country's too scared to shoot a fucking child predator.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just call it what it is. We don't punish things like that anymore. It's accepted now to be.
Texas.
It's accepted now. What is it? People. God, what is it? People attracted to minors or some shit like that. It's a
minor attracted persons.
There you go.
Yeah,
It's
it should be
LGBTQX plus YZ bullshit now.
Yeah, it should be day one. Retask all the agencies and bureaus on site with anybody involved in that.
Half of them would be in
just on site.
Hey, Mark, I keep muting your microphone because I'm getting a lot of I don't know if television bleed through from.
Let me fix that.
All right. Okay. Let's see here. Let's get. While Mark's doing that, we'll go back to this.
In fact, let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life.
Good.
Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral.
There you go.
And one does not have to abandon.
She's moral now.
I know.
Right. That's her. What's your morality?
She cares about rape. What about the illegal immigrants performing mass amounts of that? Is that
I know. And didn't we already establish that it's a states' rights thing, and Donald Trump's personal opinion conflicts with what she just said, and she's trying to make it like it's some sort of federal rule that he was somehow able to make while he wasn't president? I mean, it doesn't even make sense.
Trump is so uninformed on this issue, as I said earlier. I mean, he could get it from so many angles that Margaret Sanger, who basically founded the foundation of the abortion industry, was a eugenicist, that she wanted to put most of the abortuaries in black neighborhoods. And she openly spoke about getting rid of black people. It's just incredible. And when she says, oh, you know, it's your body, he could say, well, Kamala, it's good that your mother chose to have you, right? And Susan B. Anthony and famous women throughout history, what if they had all been aborted? Don't women's rights extend to little girls who are born and then become women? See, he could hit it on liberal themes. He could hit it on conservative themes. He just doesn't have the intellectual sinew to deal with an issue like that, the moral grit. He's got the basic passion, but he lacks the intellectual content to make it happen. This is why, and looking at it on a larger scale, you're just not going to see any Thomas Jeffersons here. You're not going to see any James Madisons. That's gone. It's just gone. That kind of political acumen, that kind of erudition, that kind of understanding of civics to the nth degree just isn't there. And if some minority candidate in the Constitution Party or someone else has those arguments, they will not see their name hardly on a ballot. They will not see the light of day in the media. They're going to keep giving us Democrats and Republicans, elephants and donkeys forever. And you're not going to hear any Jeffersonian arguments whatsoever.
Yeah.
Because it's wrestling now, Mark. Donald Trump allegedly, supposedly, I guess we could all agree, understands business, right? He's a business guy. So
yeah,
how come there's absolutely zero discussion about how the abortion thing has turned into a lucrative business, and they're shipping off these little baby parts, and they're making a shit ton killing off of this? Like, I hate to use that euphemism, but that's not brought up either. And I'm pretty sure Trump would be he would get that pretty quick. He'd be like, oh, well, yeah, you know, same with any of the military, I mean, the health industrial, the pandemic, the medical industrial complex. There we go. Cheese and crackers.
The only place where Trump's been strong tonight was on tariffs. One of the most misunderstood taxes in history. The country operated for the first 125 years on tariffs. The old customs revenue collection building is still in Battery Park in southern Manhattan. It's still there, and there's a marker there. And tariffs do a number of good things. They protect our industrial base, therefore the jobs. And when the industrial base and the local jobs are in place, then you have all the local tax base to finance schools, to finance roads, police, bridges, infrastructure, senior centers, sheriff's departments, and everything. And then with the economy protected, the tariffs are taxing the foreign imports. That money goes straight to the federal treasury and begins to whittle down the deficit. And that revenue can be used to spur even more repairing of our infrastructure, repairing of roads and bridges, which is in the trillions now in terms of being behind in the work that we need. Tariffs are one of the most just forms of taxes in history. The argument that Kamala made earlier was that, well, tariffs will make everything cost more. All taxes make things cost more. Local property taxes will make the mom and shop's products or services cost more. Income taxes will make local businesses' products and services cost more. It's not just tariffs that raise the price of goods, but those are foreign goods, and they should cost more because they've been shipped thousands of miles. And so, although Donald was good on the tariff issue, once again, he just doesn't seem to be able to kick the football all the way through the goalposts to make more of an intellectual argument. And instead, he's more of a, how would you say, sort of taking jabs at her, getting a few points in, but never really getting any depth to what he says.
Yeah, Mark, we know that Trump is not that kind of guy, Mark. He doesn't have that capacity.
Yeah, and now that he lacks that sort of, well, I won't say lacks, but now that he's leaning more into stoic Trump and is leaning away from that, like, pit bull insult throwing Trump, there is an air of seriousness. Obviously, he's trying to create, but there's also a void there that I'm not quite sure.
Trump's getting a little frazzled here.
All right.
And I think the reason he's getting frazzled is because there's just too much stuff. There's just too much stuff to say and go at her with. I don't think he has a way of like delineating some of this stuff.
Yeah, he sees that mute button coming every 30 seconds or whatever.
There's one more thing. I'm not trying to monopolize the floor, but there's one other thing. The way the debate is formatted is arguably in Kamala's favor. Donald Trump doesn't like a leash on. He's not the kind of guy that deals well with these strictures. It takes him a little longer to explain things. And so therefore, when he's given these tight time frames, he tends to be a little frazzled, rather repetitive, and he doesn't seem quite to find the sweet spot. Whereas Kamala, for whatever reason, has a little easier time finding the sweet spot. Maybe it's something she learned as Attorney General of California, but she's a little bit better at talking in concise terms than Trump is. People say she's a total airhead and isn't capable of carrying on an intelligent conversation. That's not altogether true. Her policies are pretty Marxist, but she's not a total idiot. We got to just be honest with that, I think.
Yeah. I think maybe where she struggles is with creating and maintaining a public persona. I think that behind closed doors, she's a different entity than we see. And that's why sort of her whole political, at least since I became more aware of her, it's all been into like laughing, it's all the cackly stuff. But I'm thinking behind closed doors. I mean, if 89% of your staff has walked out on you and said you're pretty awful, like you're not laughing and being joyous all the time and cracking jokes.
On camera, she's all giggles, but behind the scenes, she's like murdering kittens for fun.
Dr. Giggles.
Yep. Speaking of which, they sort of bring that up.
Trump is more, I mean, what you see is what you get with Trump, but I think you're right, Hash. What Kamala's doing is, it sounds good in some ways, especially to her supporters and some of the undecideds, but who are you really seeing? Will the real Kamala please stand up? Trump looks a little frazzled. He's a little repetitious, but what you see is what you get.
Yeah. Go ahead, Based.
Oh no, I was just going to say they brought up some of these. They just brought up Charlottesville. There's a few surprises in here. You're
all right. Let's
get back to it.
All right, here we go.
And their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
Oh my goodness.
She didn't want
Because
that.
Obamacare?
Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest
Wow.
being forced to carry a pregnancy to term.
Incest.
They don't want that. And I
Was that an
pledge to
accident?
you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there will be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Oh,
You mean like vaccine, taking vaccines?
She goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what
Making Billy
everybody
into
wanted.
Susie.
Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well, I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea, and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans.
At least he pointed out they don't need to discuss it, and here we are.
And a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is.
That's her fault.
Have to travel to another state
Federal
to
Reserve?
get on a plane sitting next to strangers,
Right?
to
It's
go
an
and
abortion.
get the health care.
Yeah,
Yeah, who's in charge of this administration right now? Anyway?
I don't know. I really don't know. Someone else, I guess.
You're the vice president. If there was something that could be done from that end, like, why don't you do it? What the,
She's too busy, Hesher, taking care of the border and artificial intelligence and other shit.
Doing a bang-up job.
She's studying those Venn diagrams. Takes up a lot of time, my man.
Why is this so expensive, Kamala?
Right.
Well, shout out to her homies from Venezuela.
She needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her
That's your
through.
fault.
Like these horrible, like progressive fan fiction horror situations, that these little vignettes. It's like, oh, what about this little vignette? And what about this little vignette? And then it's the Trump abortion ban nationwide because this little vignette, and then this little vignette. It's like this narrative.
Well, I mean, I hate to say that, but this is how, and I'm sorry for everybody out there, but this is how they rile up women, because they are just emotional, and that's what she's doing right now. She's playing on women's emotion.
Yep.
100%.
Not just women, just every beta in the country is listening to this. They have to sit next to strangers on the plane.
Oh, God.
Not like me when I'm on the plane next to my reptilian friends.
Is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body.
Numbers fallacy.
And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President.
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on.
Hold on. The people of America have voted for freedom. Says the woman who didn't even get a single vote in a primary. Like, she has never gotten a vote for basically anything. She came in like last place in that last time she was allowed to debate back in 15 or whatever the heck that was, or 19. Oh my
Look
God.
at her,
Wow.
look at her face. I would suggest her face right now is, excuse me, I'm speaking. Look.
Oh, man.
Yeah, wait till they bring up Hannibal Lecter.
Jesus. Why don't you have any kids, Kamala?
Oh, well, you've seen her stepchild. It's wonderful.
That's
wonderful.
not hers.
Yeah, clearly.
If that was your stepchild, would you be in a mad rush to have kids for yourself, my man?
Well, they have similar political goals, so they got that going for them. Step relationships can be hard, but they have, riots and, Antifa.
They're not riots. They're mostly peaceful protests.
Mostly peaceful protests with fire and assault.
Gunshots and shit.
Right.
Which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing,
Her notes are like Patrick Bateman. They say meat, bone.
will she allow abortion in the 8th month?
Like a stick
9th
figure
month,
of Donald
7th
Trump
month?
getting murdered.
Okay, would you do
probably.
that?
Writing sigils.
Stinky lines.
Why don't you ask me that question?
Why don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question? Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th
Excuse me,
month,
I'm talking.
the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably
They're leaving
after
the
birth.
mics open.
Just look at the former governor of
You're getting
Virginia.
spicier.
The governor of Virginia said we
They
put
got
the
it right,
baby
there you go.
aside and then we determine what
She
we want to do
projects
with
her
the baby.
voice.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to
The governor of Virginia absolutely did. Let's
He
just momentarily here throw this one up there. Let's see. Present.
Be Ralph Northam, WRVA.
Boiler room fact check, people.
Enhance.
Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna need audio, right?
Make the baby comfortable.
He looks like a nice guy.
Yeah. Why is there
Looks
no?
like a trans guy.
The little thing on the thing.
Is that tab muted?
No.
Weird.
Oh, what the fuck?
Oh yeah, I don't get it. Okay, I'll try to go back to it.
Hesher's system is complicated.
That's all right. We'll play it later.
I've
Do it
tried.
live.
I've quoted Margaret Sanger to liberals before, and they were more upset that I said the word Negro than what
Oh,
I
my
was
Lord.
actually presenting to them.
Goodness
You can't reason with these people.
All right, let me get. I don't know why the audio on that's bothering me. The audio should work on that. What's the deal? All right, I give up. We'll go back to where we were.
Do you want me to do sign language?
Yeah, send some smoke signals or something here. All right.
He basically says we're going to keep the baby comfortable. We're going to ask some experts. We're going to consult with the doctor and the mother, and then we'll decide.
Yeah.
A couple of days go by.
Decide.
Mm-hmm.
Decide.
Yeah.
It's not your fucking decision.
Sounds like infanticide.
Border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped.
Man, she got that Drino. She got that Drino before this. Look at those black eyes.
6 months
black
before the
eyeballs.
election to act.
Yep.
And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
Oh.
And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources.
I thought we didn't have that. I thought that was all a figment.
Yeah, I thought that wasn't a problem.
Wait a second. Did you have 3.5 years to do this?
Yeah, why not? And we
She
all know
she wasn't the border czar, remember?
Yeah,
That
and-
bill included billions for war as well.
Yeah, and we all know that not only did it have a bunch of like war profiteering money built into it, but all it did was put a little spigot on it. It said once a border crossing reaches 2,000 people in a one-day period, they'll put a pause on it. So there's still going to be, up to 2,000 people coming through illegally at each crossing per day before they enact any of this. And they're just going to give a bunch more jobs to process people. That's all you're doing down there, Border Patrol. We know is processing people. Yeah. So that whole bill was an absolute farce in more than one way. It was money for Ukraine, money for Israel, money for bombs, more money for Border Patrol to process more illegal aliens. That's all that bill was.
To allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But
What do you mean by trans?
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses.
I'm trying to fix the problem you're trying to fix up with fentanyl. We are not the same.
President is someone who would prefer to run on
Get
a
ready
problem
for the
instead of fixing a
illegals,
problem. And I'll tell you something. He's going to talk about
everybody.
immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not
And
the
they pass
subject
the
that is
mic.
being
It's
raised.
happening. It's going to come.
And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald
my
Trump's
house.
rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
Whoa.
You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your
I love
your
that
desires.
look on Trump's face.
And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President
Anybody-
Harris, thank you.
I
President
invite
Trump, on that
people-
point, I want to get
I
more
invite
on
people to
rallies.
go to his
After
rallies.
The headline concert is done, and they all get up and say, "Forget this shit, we're leaving."
Yeah.
I invite people to go to his rallies, especially anybody with psychological problems. Anybody who I'm activating code Q, do code Z, do everything, do anything. Code word Botswana, MK Ultra, Z level 33, activate.
Right. Oh my God.
Let me just ask though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
Oh, snap.
And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here,
I've seen those pictures.
This shit has to be, like, it has to be rigged.
Fucking ducks. There's pictures of guys with ducks. I mean, come on.
No, I actually, on a serious note, there has been reports of increased ritual sacrifice of pets in New York and some other cities because of the Haitians that are coming in. They are not necessarily eating it, but they're actually sacrificing it because they do this shit as rituals.
Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn sacrifice about 40,000 chickens a year, and I never heard PETA raise a peep.
Nah.
I saw this movie. It's called The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino and Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
That's right. Delroy Lindo.
Yep.
Haitians eat what? Haitians eat what?
Long pork.
Eat pussy? No.
Long pig. Except they call it long pig up there. I learned that back in Nam when I was in Bud's training camp. They called it long pig.
Should say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of it.
Fact checked.
Saw quite a bit of that on social media. I mean, okay.
Is that Springfield, Ohio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did anybody watch that city council meeting?
No. What happened?
Oh, it was just all the folks in town airing their grievances. What's
I did. I saw a couple short clips out of that.
Started this is they were complaining about it, I guess.
Yeah.
If you type in Springfield, Ohio, the first two articles that come up. How an Ohio town landed in the middle of an immigration debate. Ohio City with Haitian migrant influx thrust in the political spotlight. What we know about Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio.
Look at
and they're left-wing sites.
Before you unpause it, sorry, share the screen. She's holding back a giggle because she knows it's true.
She's been laughing as soon as he
You
mentioned
evil bitch! What is this?
I know, dude. She quite seriously thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She's like, dog
Sorry,
sounds
Cujo.
good right about now.
Yeah, getting hungry.
You talk about extreme.
Was that a cackle?
This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election,
we are not under obligation to drink at every cackle. Nobody will survive if we do this.
actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formally worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain.
Can we post a second?
endorsement
Yeah, she has the endorsement of Dick Cheney.
Yeah. She's proud
All
of that.
the military industrial freaking blood sucking vampires.
Yeah.
That's another thing she probably doesn't want to brag about.
Yeah.
Let me get that straight. And I haven't heard much about this. You're saying Kamala has had some words of support or endorsements from people like Cheney. Is that also true of Mitt Romney and other?
I don't know if Romney endorsed her officially or not.
He's got
But I know
200
Cheney did.
Republicans.
Say again.
Chris Christie.
200.
200 Republicans, Mark, and what's his face? We just mentioned Cheney and his daughter have both openly endorsed Kamala Harris over Trump.
Oh, and the late wait, there was a mention of McCain, but McCain had passed away. Maybe they mean Mrs. McCain. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Loser.
No, that is very telling. That means it's the internationalist wing of the Republican Party, aka rhinos. You might say Republicans in name only. That's much more telling than anything else Kamala's going to say.
Yeah. And
if
again,
she has the internationalist wing of Republicans behind her, then that shows you where she's placed within the political spectrum.
right, because war profiteers prefer her.
War profiteers.
Yeah, Larry King,
Right.
Dennis Hastings, right? Dick Cheney, Mitt
Right.
Romney, all the bloodsuckers.
Which means military interventionism, which would mean a pretty strict pandemic COVIDocracy 2.0. If that happens, it's going to mean anti-tariff. It's going to mean free trade, which is dumping, which undermines our industrial base because it's a globalist, non-nationalist philosophy. So you almost don't need to hear anything more about Kamala if that's true. If those kind of Republicans are supporting her, that will tell you much more than anything she could say. She could talk for 48 hours straight, and that tells you more.
Yeah, and she opened with her Goldman Sachs. Bring Goldman Sachs into it when they were talking about government fiscal responsibility. So, yeah,
Mark, not only is that true, she's bragging about it.
Yeah,
right now.
exactly. That's the scary part. It's not like it's just happening. It's like she's openly bragging to the American public about having, the gnarliest war hawks behind her and the gnarliest international bankers behind her. Wow.
So I just
very telling.
Pulled up an article from PBS about Springfield, Ohio, and so far it's estimated 12 to 15,000 Haitian immigrants are in the city now. So far, it's a long transcript between. Oh man, who is this? Amna Nawaz, Jeff Bennett, and William Brangham. They're 2 residents and then some pastor. Nothing on eating cats and dogs yet, but 12 to 15,000.
What's the population of the local pets? Has it been reduced since the Haitians have been increasing in population?
How many fentanyl ODs in Springfield, Ohio? Also, the most
Not
famous
yet.
resident of Springfield, Ohio, The Simpsons.
Art.
Of
former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member
Wonderful.
Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff,
We would ask the people who worked with you, but
has
they're
said
gone.
he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous
John
and
Bolton?
unfit.
Oh,
His
another
former
war.
Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term.
No, what he
And
said
when
was
we
that no one
listen
would
to
survive
this
anywhere.
kind of rhetoric.
Yeah. This whole the existential threat to the country, like both sides. This is one of both sides. It's funny that both sides talk about each other as an existential threat to the country, yet everything they've covered has been completely fucking milquetoast so far.
No issues,
Eric.
just fluff.
Yep.
When the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job, I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by by
No, Joe Biden did, you liar.
It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back
about
to
how
your
many people
deportation
write books about you.
proposal that the vice president has.
I know, geez. We better start writing books, guys.
Yeah, we're going slow.
Well, President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a.
He's exactly right about that. I'll give him that one. That was a good one. That was his best singer in that whole response section there. Mark, you made a couple comments. Why don't you read them out loud? Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh,
yeah.
Clearly, the ABC reporter there was seeking an answer on how he would deport people. He said, would you go door to door? And what Trump is saying there may have some force. It may be basically true. It's true to his character, but he's very repetitious now. He said, oh, you're destroying our country, destroying the fabric of our country. By this point in the debate, a little over an hour into it, hour and 10, the TV's ahead of the internet. He's said that 5 or 6 times, possibly more. And he's not being substantive in his answers. He's being hyperbolic. And getting some good points in, like the misrepresentation of the new jobs and some other good points, not taking anything away from him, but he's extremely repetitive, hyperbolic, and he definitely avoided how you would go about deporting. If he doesn't know exactly how you deport several million people, he should just say, well, that would have to be worked out. Instead, he totally avoided the question. I know as a reporter, no matter who you are, if the person you're interviewing completely avoids the question, that alone is a cause for concern.
Yeah. Bays, you made a good comment there too, man.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it doesn't really matter what he says as a response. It's the fact that he's fact checked is what will carry her in this, because that'll, like Grunge said, it makes people's ears perk up. That's all people are going to remember, that he was fact checked by the MSM. So he was fact checked. So he must have been wrong. That's what'll be soundbite and what'll carry it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's such.
They are just fact checking them.
That's exactly what happened last time.
And that's such a critical counter fact check that he just did right there with the national statistics. I mean, it's shocking when you look into that. The changes that
you remember not long ago that Mark Zuckerberg came out and apologized or admitted to whatever, that he was being fed bullshit from the federal government on COVID and other things like that. And it for, I'm going to say, maybe 2 hours, people believed it and people were like, oh shit, yeah, this is actually happening. But then it went right back to, you go on Facebook, something's fact checked. You go on Twitter, something's fact checked. It still gets people to kind of think and go, well, shit, maybe that's not true. Whether it is or not is irrelevant. But because somebody said fact checked, that coined term, people are like, well, then it must not be true. They just kind of automatically avoid the factual part of it and just jump on, well, it was fact checked, so it can't be true.
Yes, people will people are either on the one hand don't ever read or understand anything, and then on the other hand will not believe their lying eyes. So the whole political game is just run on the selling the emotional lie to the public.
Yeah
100%.
Fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
There you go.
Oh,
34 felonies.
There you go.
Economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents.
Wow.
Is that a stolen
tax law enforcement? What the shit?
All right. Stolen talking point.
Get this. On the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But Frank,
supporting small businesses.
Oh my God!
This
my
so
God!
Crazy,
Wow.
Who is running the country now? Jesus Christ!
I work for a small business.
Yeah.
Not good.
Is she like? Shouldn't she be like blaming Joe Biden for some of this? Like, if you can't do these things as vice president 3.5 years in, like, who's stopping you? Like, what's the disconnect here?
This is
Wait a
awesome.
second. Why is there a housing crisis?
Yeah.
Oh, is it because there's a bunch of new fucking people coming in? Holy shit. Obviously,
and
police, all the ones that are born here.
He's the defund the police candidate.
Holy shit. Wait a second. Is fake black woman going to talk about the 42% of black-owned businesses that went under since COVID started?
Yeah.
I'm guessing no.
Probably.
I'm listening.
Yeah, let's wait.
Talk about that.
We're waiting to see. Okay, yeah.
frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said
former and future presidents, because it's never been had to even be thought about before, even with all the crazy war crimes and stupid shenanigans we've had.
And it only counts for things he did while he was president.
Yeah. Already that was the way we were operating. Yeah, exactly.
Which would count for her and which count for Obama. Both of these people are not on the ball with this stuff. I mean, he could have gone after her after so many things that she just said, and then she keeps bringing it back to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Yep. No. I mean, that's something we have to look forward to in a potential Harris presidency, is the gutting of the Supreme Court, the packing of the Supreme Court, and then shenanigans shall be afoot.
She's gonna bring back powdered wigs.
Yeah,
we can trust them again. Yeah,
and I like Mark just typed, the court ruling would mean she's immune too. So of course, you won't hear her if she becomes president. You won't hear her complaining about that in her 4 years from then campaign. I guarantee it.
Terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made.
At the ritual with you after this.
Because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil.
So that we can sell LNG to Germany after we destroyed their pipelines for higher costs.
That's exactly what it is. It makes them dependent on us.
Yep.
Real quick.
Did
you guys notice the hair? I'm still looking at this. On the right side, like you said, Hesher, it has not that. There's a little chunk.
Yep.
It just has not moved.
Strategically placed, my friend.
Just dropping that.
Yeah, possibly strategically placed.
Yeah, I don't think she need an earpiece. They fed her those questions before I bet
She's
you.
been,
it's absolutely been planned, but this is maybe like emergencies only.
Yeah,
it hasn't moved.
Whoever's doing the plastic surgery under her neck fucked up the turkey neck, and now there's like 6 turkey necks. I can't not look at it.
Always a good way.
I'm sorry. All right, go ahead.
Have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother.
In Canada?
Who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend
How?
That are coming in the
sexually
country.
assaulted by her stepfather.
Yeah.
How?
It's the plan.
Prices.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
We're
are
in
you
a
going to
housing
control the
bubble right
prices?
now.
Yeah.
We're in a housing bubble, and we live in a hellscape of a country. And this is what you're
Nobody can afford houses right now.
The only way this would work is if everybody came over the border, built their own house when they came over. There's just there's more people. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. She has a plan. She has a plan. Trust the plan. Where's that? Oh, another stolen plank right there. Stolen policy. Trust the plan.
Believe it when I see it.
And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling.
Yeah, because she did such a great job protecting people, their businesses, and their houses during the Karunka event, right? Great job.
Yeah, we're not about name calling, like calling people domestic terrorists or restricting their rights to speak.
Right.
True measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your response?
First of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
Snaps. Oh, snaps.
Does that sound familiar?
That's her line.
She went out.
I'll drink to that just because it was
All
good.
right. Yeah, I don't think that was on the list, but
Yeah, it was not, but we should take one for that.
all right.
I'm
Yeah,
fucking
Donald
done
swooped in
familiar.
on that one. All right.
Look at her face.
And wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think
is
of.
true.
Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to
Illegal.
confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
can
We
we
have an
pause for a
election
sec?
in just
Yeah.
56 days. And I don't
Yeah. So just to his point that he's saying, They stopped the pipelines in the beginning of the election, and they went to freaking Venezuela. If you guys remember, to try to get freaking oil from them. They went to Iran to get oil. They went to Saudi Arabia to get oil. Remember? After the whole like war with Russia.
They raided the National Reserve too.
Yep, and they like depleted the National Reserve, right? And then after that, they start opening it again because they had no choice.
Right.
And by the way, gas prices right now, if you go see gas prices, it is the first time that I see there is a $1 difference between 87 and 93.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, yeah, the difference in ethanol levels is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Ethanol free is still about $5 a gallon around here.
Yep.
Jeez.
Not ethanol, octane. That's what I meant. But yes.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which
Oh,
of course we all
here we
know is
go.
a cornerstone of our
Here we
democracy
go.
and the role of the president
pause,
in a moment
pause.
of crisis. Mr. President.
The first time that they ever said peaceful transition of power was right when Trump was coming in. That never entered the lexicon until 2016. And ever since then, that's been a big thing that just gets shoehorned into everything. Like there's like they're, passing off a torch, but it's, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, that is something that is less than 10 years old. That phrase never existed until Trump came in.
Yeah.
And they try to put that in everywhere.
And
he's going to come in with 2 Uzis like the dude in Mars Attacks and just start fucking blasting everybody, It's so
no, you're 100% right. This is a staging NLP. They're about to bring in Charlottesville. They're about to bring in J6.
Okay.
They're about to
That
bring in
makes
all
sense.
this stuff.
All right.
So
Fuck
yeah, that's
I'm
exactly.
still sober.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, we need more trigger words. We should have thrown some. I forgot to throw like all the J6 and themes in there for drink words. So weapons free if you want.
President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. Might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward.
He was the president when those things burned as well.
Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape.
More than 2 weeks ago. It's been around for over a month.
Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond.
Shit. This guy.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice
scared for my life.
president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob
Here we
to
go.
attack our nation's capital, to desecrate
cry?
our nation's capital. On that day,
Crocodile
140 law
tears.
enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand,
I'm calling that an
former
accident.
president has been indicted and impeached.
Some died. Is she talking about the guy that died 2 days later?
Yeah.
From a heart attack or a stroke or something?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was
Bang!
a
There you
mob
go.
of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
She talking about the Fed boys?
Those federal agent operatives didn't go far enough.
Did you see their Walmart tiki torches, khaki pants, and their fashy haircuts?
And what did the president then at the time say? There were
Fine
fine people on each side.
Oh my God.
Let's remember
Here we go.
that
This old crap. This is what remember this is what Biden launched his initial campaign on was Charlottesville, and he even relaunched his second campaign on it too. Unbelievable. There's so
and
many,
it was debunked so many freaking times.
Yeah.
It's insane that she's freaking bringing it back.
yeah. I mean, it's pretty. People are. There's plenty of information out there in open
Goldfish
sources
memory.
that that whole incident with the car and everything was all sus. Very, very sus.
when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia,
Another group riddled with feds.
the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand.
I thought she was going to say in hell for you.
To stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy.
Yeah, and the chaos of this sentence that I forgot what I started with. Charlottesville, blah, blah.
Because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. If this and the
Oh man, back to all these talking, like just these headline level talking points out of context. She's really leaning into those.
The bloodbath of the 5 officers that died after the event under mysterious circumstances. That bloodbath.
Yeah, never mind the 4 people that were murdered during it.
The gal beaten to death under the bridge by police. We don't talk about.
Yeah, the gal suffocated. The gal shot.
Oh,
the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
Can we? Okay,
God damn, feely good Obama talking words.
Yeah,
it's all emotion and like future tense and hope and change shit.
It's
the same coaches.
Unburdened from what was, my friend.
Oh, dude.
from what has been.
We didn't build that.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related.
Oh shit! Yeah, I've caught her in some really sour lemon faces.
To energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the.
Why did he switch to border? She just gave him an open goal and he kind of took it, and then he just veered off to the southern border.
This goes back to what Mark Anderson was saying. Like he's just not he's not there. He's sticking to the talking points that he knows or he thinks that he can win at, and he's just rolling with it. There's
open goals,
fucking questions.
Yeah.
Well, politicians never answer questions.
Yeah, really.
Right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide.
Oh, here we
in
go.
The past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
Yeah, this caused a big old stir, didn't it? Yep.
It caused a ruckus.
It sure did.
Oh,
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican,
judge looked at it.
And said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter. Because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself.
That was won.
But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from
He's
President
really good
Trump
at leading the narrative.
about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as vice president of the United States.
But not the border.
And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
Oh.
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
No,
Yeah, we do.
How about the people that stalled the election, like down in Georgia, and then his daughter's boyfriend blows up in a fucking car, and the next day he's like, "Nope, it's good. I certified it. Dems won."
Yeah,
don't talk about that one. Yeah,
man,
oh,
you're destroying this country every single day. You hate people. You hate humanity. You hate babies. You love Satan. You are a disgrace.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the Georgia group, I put it in the text field earlier. By the way, I went into the time machine and watched TV, and I watched the rest of the debate. So I'm like a future visionary, and I know what's been said, and I already heard their closing statements, but I won't give away the store. But the Georgia group, Voter GA, Voters Organized for Trusted Election Results in Georgia, they have the goods. Their leader, Garland Favorito, just gave a presentation that I'll be talking about most likely this coming Friday on UK Column, most likely, to juxtapose it with what Harris said. They've got all the goods about missing ballot images, about ballots that aren't made of the right material, and things that weren't counted, things that were overcounted, you name it down the line, far exceeding in number the 11,000 plus votes, just over 11,000 that Biden supposedly won Georgia by in 2020. Biden did not win Georgia. The media is lying. Trump won Georgia, period. The evidence is all there. The Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, how he's keeping a lid on this is beyond me. He's got his finger in every hole in the dike. He's hanging on for dear life that the tide doesn't go the wrong way. The state of Georgia, at the very least, among the swing states, is the area where the evidence is piled sky high that Trump won it and Biden did not. If those same machinations happened in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and a couple other pivotal states, maybe Wisconsin, if those same kind of malfunctions and, well, not just malfunctions, but outright vote flipping and the stealing of the vote, the breakdown of the system, the dishonesty of the system, the fraud within the system, if it happened in those other states, then that means that Trump didn't try to undermine the election. He knew it was already undermined and was trying to call it out. That cannot be overstated.
Yeah. And, you know, we talked a lot with Greg Stenstrom and Leah Hoops over at TNT about the Pennsylvania situation. And they have a mountain of things that were never looked at by any courts there, too, because of that same reason. No standing, which just means they refuse to even look at it. And yeah, we saw it in Arizona, saw it in Nevada, Wisconsin. Voterga.org, if you're not familiar, that's Garland Favorito is co-founder over there, and you can find loads and loads of information. Let's sally forth.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart, Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that, but he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I
up.
think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held Americans.
Drinking coming.
In December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7,
drink!
a terrorist organization slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
In ovens.
Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped.
Oh, boy.
And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true. Far too many
None of this
innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately. And the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out.
She said it must win.
And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
I thought she said end.
No, she said win, I swear.
All right.
Don't rewind it, but I swear. I heard that.
Could have been a slip of the tongue.
Could have been the beard.
Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must
one
be
thing she loves is slipping
security
that
for the
tongue.
Israeli people and Israel, and an equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that
Just like she said at APAC a couple months back. I mean, duh.
Iran and its proxy.
Every time they do a peace deal and they agree to it, and the Israelis add something else that they know the Hamas is not going to agree to, and then it goes back to the drawing table for another 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and they continue bombing people.
Yeah, and we send another.
They've been doing this for how many months now? I mean, come on.
Dude, they've been doing this since the beginning of the freaking conflict.
She's lying through her fake blackface. I can't believe this woman. Incredulous.
That's why they put Hamas in charge.
Yeah,
that's exactly. They keep
but we
doing
must have
a
two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of
Don't say things would have been different if you had been president.
Oh, no, that's a full, you got to drink the whole beer.
And
chug it.
Are U.S. presidents interacting with Hamas? I mean, what's the expectation there? That's a new one to me.
I've never seen it, but he's going to be like, if I was in charge, it would have never happened. It would have never happened. They respected us before them.
All right, everybody take a drink if that's what happens.
Civilians in Gaza.
If I were president, it would have never started.
Fuck
yeah! President, Russia.
Oh, we got a new one.
I know Putin very well. He would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone.
He didn't mention Christians.
Never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered.
I love how all the Conservative Incorporated just like assumes that Iran had no money without that $6 billion, which was their money in the first place. Like,
it was frozen for years.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's the stupidest talking point. And again, here he is winging out the stupid like Breitbart talking points.
It very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said
the same for you?
That he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting.
What about your love letters with Montel Williams?
They're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with,
Amelia No Heart,
you are a disgrace.
What's up with your scarf?
That is why
Very ugly.
We understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and
And
she's
it
the
is
one
well known,
that
he
caused
said,
it.
grab
That's
him in
weak
the
for
pussy.
national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely
pretty funny.
Now, for a guy claiming he was using sarcasm earlier, he should know better than to throw this one out. That was a waste of words right there. He should have skipped that one. That's not gonna.
Well, but I actually do think
legit.
I actually do think that actually Putin, like all their policies against Russia, has made Russia stronger.
Well, yeah.
Like, you know, if you look at where Russia was before they get into office, Russia's much stronger now.
Yeah. They're actually willing to fight back against the Globo Homo Borg.
Yeah.
And they're paying in lives. There's
They
60,
weakened the US
75,000 dead Russians that are like, fuck you guys.
They are continuously pushing for weakening the US dollar by the sanctions they are putting and pushing people away from the US. So all their politics are actually putting us in a weaker position.
Also, another thing, I know this goes back into deep history. Donald Trump was a lifelong Democrat donor, good friends with the Clintons. Everybody knows this. He donated to Bill Clinton. And what did Bill Clinton do? He helped ramrod NAFTA through, which oversees all of our fucking steel and manufacturing imports to China, which is now like the big global hegemon that they're all like afraid of. And it's just like, are you going to bring that up, Don? Are you going to bring that up? Was that a tax deductible donation to your friends with the blue ties?
I'm also curious why he's not going for like heavier hitting talking points too. Like, I mean, on a normal, just pedestrian podcast like Sean Ryan's show, you can see, former, I don't remember if she was CIA or what, but they're talking about the $68 million a day in American taxpayer money that's going to like Taliban warlords. Like, and again, like that whole thing with Iran and the $6 billion, it's like, what are you even talking about? Why are there billions of dollars going to the Taliban, to their homes? I'm not talking about some pseudo government office. I'm talking about C-130s landing at helicopters and shit, landing at the homes of Taliban warlords. They're getting more money than our own vets are getting for that whole situation.
All these machinations they talk about, Iran is rich, suddenly Iran is poor, suddenly they're rich again. Most of what goes on in foreign policy and wars and rumors of wars and cloak and dagger operations is all back channeled. Anything you hear in the news is usually not even close to what's really happening. It's run by intelligence agencies and soldiers of fortune, and governments don't really run things altogether anymore. They talk about the president, Harris or Trump, is going to save the economy and fight inflation. Well, the banking consortium and the Federal Reserve runs pretty much on autopilot. No president is even allowed to go to the Federal Open Market Committee meetings at the Federal Reserve. The president is not allowed, nor is he or she invited. So all this, the president's going to save the economy. There's very limited things actually that presidents can do about the economy. They can encourage tariffs, maybe they can do maybe certain executive orders here and there, but financially the banks run the show, and no matter who's president, the bankers remain untouched.
Yeah, indeed.
Incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get
Didn't
to.
he approve
Right
it
now,
and then
much
blow
more
it
of this
up?
historic ABC News presidential.
Like, hello? They keep talking about he approved it. They
Yeah,
blew it
why
up.
are we not going into the blowing it up part?
Yeah, it's not there. Fuck.
Yeah,
because that was the
From
cocaine
national-
charge. Remember, the cocaine charge blew that up.
Fuck.
Did you forget?
It was a bunch of
Come on.
divers with like Polish hookers, and they rented a yacht, and they fucking holding their breath all the way down there. Yeah,
I love
Constitution Center.
that the moderators keep saying we have a lot to get to. We have a lot.
I
to
know.
get
They're
to.
like, we're not gonna go any further.
We
with
have a
that.
lot to get to.
they're running more interference with us. Everybody's doing spoiler alerts in the chat. You
I know.
fuckers.
in Philadelphia.
I know. I feel like we need to skip ahead.
Have they even gone to a commercial yet?
Oh,
This is the
smoke
first
break.
one.
The ABC
Oh, we're out of here. Doop, doop, doop.
Fit 2020 is
now.
the stunning.
Let me mute that. And
That's my time to dip. I gotta see y'all. Gotta peace
All right,
out.
man.
Hey,
All right.
good coverage.
Hey,
Very
man.
patriotic. Love you guys. Peace.
peace out,
Later,
dude.
brother.
Later, buddy.
Yeah, let me just take this off the screen whilst I. Oh, looks like I've found it. All right, we're re-enabled.
The one moderator chick's shoulder pads are quite intense.
They really are.
They are.
Isn't that like
She's like ready for football.
Yeah, she has bigger shoulder than that dude.
You could land a
I was
drone.
just gonna say it's like, when did looking feminine become so bad? Right, like to men
That's a good
or
observation.
to women, broad shoulders, big arms, biceps, like that was a good thing. And now it's the complete opposite. He looks like a fucking bozo, and she looks like a grown man.
I guarantee you the the legs on his pants there, his trousers are probably like super tight at the ankle and 6 inches too high. What do you want to bet?
I say he's wearing a mini skirt and fishnet stockings and heels.
Venetian mask in his back pocket.
I'm not gonna bet because I don't want to lose. He already looks feminine.
Luckily for us,
Look
we're
at
not
him. He
invited.
looks like he's wearing heels.
Yeah. Luckily for us, we're not invited to the party where that all is revealed. Okay, here we go.
Turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict.
There you
Mr.
go.
President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog.
Are they doing something with the camera?
We have
His
a
hands
president
look smaller
that
than
doesn't know he's
usual.
alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these.
You got to love how like mainstream pundits are just like all about winning wars now. Like, okay, Mr. Host guy, like point me to the latest great Western success in war. What do you got? Like, what do you got that's worth all these lives and all this money while Lahaina sits there, just a pile of ashes while the water's bad here? Like so many, while we've got authoritarianism running rampant. It's just like, what's this interest in quote unquote winning wars? Like when has that happened? Like, give me a fucking example of how great we are at this winning of wars. At post, okay, I'll give you one. Post 1945. Give me one good fucking example.
Libya.
Cool.
Because you could actually buy blacks on the slave market.
Well, that's a fact. You've got a literal slave trade there after the PNAC plan happened out there in Libya. So, get more of that, I suppose.
How about we just stay in our own fucking country?
Well.
How's that? It sounds like extremist viewpoints. Apparently, the mainstream wants us to be all about winning wars in foreign fucking places.
Human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing?
Like, why are these fucking questions even pertinent at this point? I mean, we've seen the footage from the House, the House and the Senate. We've seen the flags. We know how many people that supposedly represent us here in America that are standing ovations to the green man, the little short comedian guy. I don't know.
From President Biden.
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump
was important.
that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense.
I like the way she just drops NATO's western flank as NATO's western flank. That would actually be worth talking about for a little bit if you really wanted to lay some context on why this is happening. But that's
would it be their eastern flank, or are we talking like river maps where the east is the west?
Yeah, like
so confused.
Like she's going to these embattled zones and doing war planning and defensive nationals planning. Yeah, right. Sure.
Just a huge, very important, like breaking news. Breaking news. Taylor Swift has officially endorsed Kamala Harris.
Oh, fuck.
It's over, gang.
Done.
What the fuck?
That came out 26 seconds ago.
Okay. All right.
It's the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided. Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Ooh.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Just said made any fucking sense.
Would be sitting in Moscow.
Right? I know. Like I kept thinking about pausing, and I'm just like, this is like 10. We'd be here all night if I cut apart everything she said.
Dude, no one wants to invade Poland.
Right?
Why would you do that? Like half the country doesn't even have fucking plumbing in their houses. You're going to take over a place with at least some built-in infrastructure. I mean, come on.
Oh my gosh. This is tiresome.
And he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow.
I'm talking.
Much happier than he is right now. But eventually, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. and the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times.
This fella.
The reality is it has been
This fella.
about standing as America.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the NAFO fellas.
Yep.
Should. As a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up.
Why, Kamala, are you talking about democracy in Ukraine? They don't have that there. That guy's his mandate as president has expired, for one. He's jailing journalists. He's outlawing opposition media. People are being black bagged. People are being conscripted, forced into combat. I mean, there's all kinds of things that, I mean, you know, we talk about the way we don't like America being described as a democracy sometimes, because quite literally it's a constitutional republic. But never mind all that. But for, you know, even modern quote unquote democracy, 21st century American democracy, like, you can't compare what's happening in that country to what is what we have here, or at least what we think we have.
She's just doing another word salad thing, Hesher. Don't read too much into it. She has no idea what the fuck she's saying either.
Yeah, she's grating at my nerves at this point, I think.
Yeah, you know that.
It's bad.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
No. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, the idea of a strong man. They're also saying that about a Central American leader. I think it's El Salvador. I saw it at a law office today that I visited, and Time Magazine's talking about this strong man that's getting rid of crime in this Central American country, but supposedly at the expense of people's civil liberties. Well, Zelensky is as much a, quote, strong man, autocrat as any other that Kamala is so dead set against. So Trump is right, although, see, with Trump, he has some of the right ideas, but he doesn't explain it very well. You can have an idea, but it's also how you explain the idea. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. He's not very good at the how you say it part. All he has to say is, and it's just like with abortion, he just can't quite find the sweet spot. All he has to say to Kamala, and any one of us could go on that podium and knock Kamala out in 10 minutes. All you have to do is look at her and say, look, Kamala, all Zelensky is another strong man. If Putin is, so is Zelensky. It's a dialectic. To say that Ukraine is deserving of our total support, that we want them to win, is a misplaced notion. He is as much a dictator as Putin is purported to be. The only reasonable thing to do is stop the war and stay neutral. And Trump kind of means to say that, but you'll notice how he can't quite hit the sweet spot.
Yeah, exactly. And while you were talking there, got a link from Creative Accidents about that situation in El Salvador. Just quickly as an aside, El Salvador's 2-year push has crushed street gangs, but at a high price. That's the headline. It's in the Japan Times if you want to look it up out there. But out of San Salvador, 2 years after declaring war on street gangs, San Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele now hails El Salvador as the safest country on the continent, but critics say the price has been very high. deployment of military and police dealt a heavy blow to the structures of gangs, which were financed by extortion, contract killings, and drug dealing, backed by threats of death. The Insight Crime think tank estimated that there were almost 120,000 gang members, including 78,000 belonging to the Mara Salvutra MS-13 and about 41,000 to Barrio 18. And anyways, this article goes on to like talk about like what happened in the streets, the homicide rate, the economic impact. There's that strongman factor there. It's a good example of it, Mark.
A real quick additional point is this is common for the mass media cartel. They did this to some of the Philippine leaders, and I'm not saying they were angels, but they went in and they were effective at solving a problem. And then the media says, oh, look at, they're solving a problem, but it's at the expense of democracy. It's at the expense of civil liberties. So the media creates doubt because the system doesn't want problems solved. You can't keep chaos going to benefit the globalization plan if you start actually solving problems. We can't actually have politicians solving problems. That's anathema to the globalists. So they'll wheel out this same shibboleth, this same argument. Oh, look at the strong man. Yeah, he's solving some problems, but he's soon amassing so much power and he's an autocrat. And we've heard it again and again and again. And I think that's what they're trying to say Trump is too. While they misidentify Zelensky as a leader of a free nation. And there's one other point. If this El Salvador guy is as effective as they say he is, then that would mean that people from El Salvador would get a life again and won't go north to the U.S. border.
Yeah. Right. Infidel, were you jumping in there? I heard someone unmute.
Yeah. I just want to comment on this, like, strong man, because I think people in the Western America, they don't understand other cultures. They like strong men. They actually seek strong leaders. That idea of someone like Kamala Harris running for the president in Egypt, she's never going to be respected. They want a strong person. Same in Russia. They want a strong leader. And we need to stop thinking about cultures and countries in the same way we're thinking about our local policies and project the same mindset that we have here in other countries, because that's a problem.
Right. Yeah. All right. Let's continue down the slope here.
For our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president,
taking some liberty with technical terms there, eh? At least
active duty.
Yeah, they took their patch off for the month.
Right.
Like, come on. Also, I mean, not to defend the orange guy with the small hands, but he tried to pull them out and was denied. And he wanted to pull out during the wintertime when it wasn't a fighting season, and he was denied.
Yeah.
And then they pulled out in the middle of summer when everybody was mobile. We should have never been there in the first place. I'm not saying, I mean, we should have never been there in the first place. But
and then
he
left millions of dollars of equipment there.
Yeah. And then again, that's like, oh, well, was like to lead to a later, trafficking of arms to certain areas so that we could like surround Iran with them, possibly, definitely, or like infiltrate them and certain other, moderate rebel groups into camps that we wanted them to get to. But like his administration actually wanted to pull out, and in the wintertime when they weren't going to get surrounded. But not to defend the guy, like fuck that guy. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh man.
Negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000.
That same one that this is spending $64 million a day to? Right. Okay, that one. Got it.
Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and
this is awful, you guys. This is starting to hurt.
Receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country.
Yeah.
Mr. President, you recently said
Here
of
we
President
go.
Harris,
Here's
quote,
the good
I didn't
shit.
know she was black until a number of years ago
Oh.
when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight.
I
Why
like
do you
it.
believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So I'm
I don't
asking-
know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to Black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States.
Oh.
And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this. Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
So are you Black or
Can we talk about your grandpa for a little bit?
the language your grandma speaks?
And what kind of Black? Like African American Black, Jamaican Black, Trinidad Tobago
or
Black,
half of one of those, and
sugar plantation owner Black.
I mean, it wouldn't it be nice if Trump could have just said, "I don't care," and then they'd be like, "Okay, cool, moving on." No, she's got up. She's been handed
race
this,
baiting has to continue,
right? They both. Oh, this is awful.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your 3rd time.
The bitch doesn't even
This
look
is
Black.
the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. She's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up, Lindsay.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country, one who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction.
Did she forget to tell Joe Biden about her plan somewhere in the last 3.5 years? Again, like where's the disconnect?
$50,000. I work for small businesses. All right, we have a lot of stores in a few different states. $50,000 is about 2 years worth of glass damage to your storefront properties.
Yeah.
You're talking $2,000 windows that people are busting 5, 6, 7 times a year. We budget in every year about $20,000 to $25,000 worth of damage just to glass and vandalism.
Oh, but that $50,000, bro. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
To pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most
$6,000? Like what?
That's not shit.
The fuck?
Dude, getting an MRI without insurance costs $3,500.
Seriously, man, this is fucking bullshit. Like
that doesn't even cover daycare,
right?
For a fucking year.
And what did they give people that live in Lahaina in Maui? They gave them $700. $700 and stole the land from them, fenced it off, wouldn't let them go to their houses. Their businesses may never come back. There's no discussion about their property rights, their land rights. It's all just cordoned off. People were given like $700 or something like that. That's like one night in a Maui hotel.
When my youngest child was starting daycare, I worked 2 jobs full time. One job was 4 days on, 4 days off. The 4 days off, I worked the other job. And I still couldn't afford the daycare bill.
Ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous.
$6,000 doesn't cover shit when it comes to kids.
No.
That's like 2 months worth of fucking food, clothes, and
always with the fucking handouts. Always with the, we're going to give you, it's like hush money. It's like taking hush money from a street gang or a cartel or something like that. It's like, oh, well, remember in the 90s when $50,000 sounded like a lot of money injected into your business? Well, it's not that anymore, but dum-dums out there believe it might be.
Well, and they are not giving them their money. It is my money that they are taking.
Yeah,
It's like tax
exactly.
credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
thanks
all,
everybody. You're paying for me and Infidel's daycare bill. Thanks, guys.
Right? Like there's this foregone conclusion that we're somehow a socialist country and we just do this, And Trump's a little bit guilty of this too because of the whole COOF event and the starting sending checks out to everybody. Like it would have been a lot better if you just would have stood up to that cult and disallowed them from shutting your country down. So there's that, and so many open goals there in the discussion tonight that are clearly not going to be explored by him. All right, Mark Anderson looking tipsy here. I think we got him too far into the drinking game. Ruckus is probably on the floor.
You'll notice one thing. So much can be said about what's not mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay, they mentioned the pandemic, and Kamala was critical of Trump about how he handled the pandemic, but nothing about Pfizer, nothing about the dangers of vaccines. The vaccine genocide, one might argue. There's no RFK Jr. Ideas in here, and that's what is conspicuously absent, is that we even got here by censoring out and even preventing a Kennedy, a family that used to be the darling of the Democratic Party. The media prevented him from even running an effective campaign and blotted him out because he had the guts to call out Pfizer and Albert Bourla and these super criminals. And they talk about Putin being a threat. Albert Bourla is the threat. Pfizer is the threat. And so we can't have an intelligent discussion about the pros and cons of vaccines, the whole idea of vaccines, the dangers and deaths and ill effects on health that the vaccination regimen coming out of COVID has had. So it's so instructive here in this high-level debate as to what is not said. We can't take on big pharma. RFK Jr. tried to, he was blotted out. Now you get these two up there, and there's not a mention of Big Pharma.
Yep. No surprise there.
Critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been.
I'm glad I have a plan was not a drinking term tonight. My goodness, that one is really being overused.
Fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want.
What's
tonight,
the average home right
as
now?
opposed to a conversation that is constantly about
350?
belittling.
Yeah, it depends what state
Yeah.
you're in, but I'd
Yeah.
say that's a good guess.
Yeah.
Not only that, there's
290
already
to 420, I think.
there's already programs for first-time home buyers for no down payment. Stop giving away everybody else's money and allow those people to use those programs, or do it like everybody else fucking did and save the goddamn money.
Yeah, and like
work for what you want.
And like Al pointed out in the chat earlier, like we've got BlackRock, we've got these investment companies buying up like, hundreds of thousands of homes, completely just like absorbing the market into the international banking sphere. And, that's a big problem there.
And I bet you those fucks donated to both of these assholes' campaigns.
Right? Yeah, no kidding.
And they're not going to say shit.
Yeah, right.
Shibboleths, like Mark said. Exactly.
And name calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have
plan
to
to
move
not
on to other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania
Bring
or
it.
anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
Mr.
what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond
President
because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has said
No, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
gonna
need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep
Shocked they call it
Obamacare, quote,
Obamacare.
unless we can do
Yeah.
something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
Glue gun,
As it relates
baby.
to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made
of...
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go.
I'm a victim of
we
climate
know
change.
that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia.
Thank
Brought
God.
to you by Pfizer.
Didn't one of his daughter get a deal for her clothing line through China, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. I believe so.
I love hanging out with you guys, but fuck, that's painful.
Seriously.
The other thing, Obamacare was drafted by a bunch of lobbyists and insurance companies. Obama wasn't, Abraham Lincolning that shit by candlelight. It is, hunched over, in a cold winter's night with Michael looking over his shoulder with the dong poking him in the shoulder. No, it was a bunch of lobbyists, and they passed a bare bones thing. I think it took them like a dozen different times before they even passed it. And I can't remember. Bays Lit is going to blame me for this one. False number fallacy. I think when they passed it with the bare bones, it was something like 30,000 words, something like that. And then when it passed, immediately it got revisions and added to the point where it was in the millions.
Yeah.
And they kept stripping it down, and then they passed it, and then the amendments came, and then this and then that, and then and then before you know it, it's just this giant Borg creation. And it wasn't like Nancy Pelosi out there doing God's will. It was like the people. And what happened? They basically screwed over small insurance providers across the country, and then forced you to get with one of the big boys. And then it forced small employers to get with the big boys. When you're when you have a small company, you're getting raped. Sorry, you're getting screwed over by these big corporations when you could totally get a better deal from a local provider that's going to benefit all of your employees and going to save you a ton of money. And it's like that was nowhere in the debate.
Yeah,
like I don't know. I hate these people.
Yeah, and actually, in the beginning, if you remember, the very first proposals, they wanted to create a government-backed insurance, like government actually providing insurance, but they moved away from this because at the end of the day, the insurance company profited from that Obamacare. I want to go back to that cars. So I was just listening to a very interesting report a couple of days ago. So Biden and Harris has been pushing for this EV mandate, right? So they want by 2032, 60%, I think, of the cars on the road, or 55% to be electric vehicles. So they have been pushing manufacturers to go toward electric vehicles. They pushed all those companies to invest billions of dollars in building new lines for electric vehicles. And guess what? The consumers are rejecting electrical vehicles. Ford just decided to stop their main line of producing EV trucks because they are not selling. And they said, basically, we're just going to eat the loss. And then they decided to move to the hybrid, not hybrid plug-in, but actually it's a hybrid model, right? Where you can charge while you're running on gas because it's better model. So what she's saying about automakers is complete bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And just look at the strikes that went on over the last 2 years too. And it's been a complete disaster.
Yeah.
No one
Here
would
again. David
no one.
Muir and
Oh
Lindsay.
no. I'm sorry. That announcer voice is scary. But I was saying, most Americans wouldn't be able to afford an electric vehicle without government subsidies.
Yeah.
And most Americans don't know where lithium comes from. You virtual signaling fucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nobody
70% of it is a questionable labor at that. And they even rebranded child labor to sound better, and they call it artesian mines.
Yeah. That just means
that's children.
That means children wearing loincloths and homemade flip flops.
It's disgusting.
7-year-olds. No,
but
it's
at
horrible.
least you can virtue signal on your Insta.
Yeah.
So one of the areas that I work in heavily is a very liberal city. Lots and lots of very liberal people. And there's definitely an increase in electric vehicles. But I will tell you 85% are still gas.
Yeah.
There's at least another 10% that are diesel. And this minuscule percentage of electric.
And majority of the people that have electric, it's a second car. So they have first car as gas car.
Yeah. Not only that, and this could be I think it's related. It could be completely out of left field. But if you notice, a lot of the Tesla drivers, Rivian drivers, any of the fully electric cars, have you noticed they all have custom license plates?
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering because I've noticed that, and I make
They're
a
also
relatively
called vanity plates.
Yeah.
I make a relatively good salary for the area that I live in and what I do, but I'm still not going to spend over $100 a year
on a vanity plate.
License plate.
Because you're not vain.
So they like they're connected somehow. I just noticed, 98% of Teslas are a custom license plate of some kind. I saw one that said Elon 01. And it was not Elon driving it. It was not Elon driving it.
Dude,
they all do. They do.
Fans are out there, and they are some of the most disgusting people you will probably ever run. I hope to never run into one in real life, but they're out there, predominantly on X, of course.
Yeah, they're easy to find there.
Huge
Go figure.
fans. It's wild, man.
Yeah.
This dude is set to become the world's first trillionaire, apparently.
Oh, wow. Good
for him.
Yay.
Yay capitalism.
I've lived here for 15 years. I've never had my car towed. I've seen my neighbor's Tesla get towed at least 3 times in the last 2 years.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. You ever see that episode of South Park where everybody in the hybrid cars are driving around sniffing their own farts? Just saying.
All right, closing remarks. We heard some spoilers.
This part's supposed to be good. Let's hang it out. Let's get it over with. Here we go, gang.
I'll get the bong out.
They played in high speed where they sound like chipmunks.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight 2 very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military, and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA,
As a
I was an attorney
prostitute?
general, a United States senator,
Did
and
you
now
say
vice president. I've
prostituter?
only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The
I will
only thing
take care
I
of my
ever asked
clients.
them, are you
That's
okay?
California. It's assumed.
And that's
Yeah.
the kind of president we need right now.
Right? You don't have to ask anyone in California, at least not where
Shit.
she hung out.
No, because all the Republican conservative libertarians left that fucking
Yeah,
shithole.
exactly.
And
How
even-
many of those guys are in jail for a fucking dub sack?
Seriously, dude.
Jesus, lady. How many senior citizen health plan? How many of them got their lungs blown out by a fucking ventilator that Donald Trump signed a deal with Ford and GM to make a bunch of those things, and then you came up with a bunch of illegal parameters?
Yeah.
How many of those fucking people's had strokes? I know about 3 in my family, senior citizens that had strokes after your fucking magical vaccine that was supposed to save them. And then they spent another 6 figures rounded to save them, to give them another 6 months of their life while they were in a vegetative state so that their family could come from around the country to visit them. They're dying in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
saved them. You saved them from COVID by fucking killing them. GM stock killed it, though.
Oh yeah,
Those
yeah.
ventilators.
Yeah, I think wasn't Dyson in on
But those
that
are
too?
stolen policies from Donald Trump.
A
see.
stolen policy plank.
What a policy. Your policy should be stay the fuck away from our grandparents, you bitch.
Yeah, right.
I mean, witch. Sorry.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by
See if she's still with
investing
her
right
hand there.
now
Yeah.
in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia.
Oh, thank goodness. Let us out. Let us out. We made it.
Holy shit.
Wow.
All right. Hey, Donald, you had a Republican-controlled executive, legislative branches. You could have tried to pass the wall in your first 2 years, but then you wait until the House flipped. What was with that? Why'd you wait?
Well, the issue is you had freaking like poor Ryan, right? And so poor Ryan was like, I don't consider poor Ryan as a uniparty
Where's that guy
speaker.
been?
Yeah, he's been out of the picture a little bit lately, hasn't he? Mark, I've got you muted. Let me know if you want me to unmute you. I'm getting a lot of fan noise or something there. All right.
I don't know what that is. You still getting it now?
It's not bad when you're talking, but when you're not talking, it bleeds in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, we've been at this for a bit here, Mark. Do you want to make any final commentary? We'll kind of work our way around the room. We'll start with you.
Yeah. I'm going to have to duck out soon. Well, one thing I would observe, because I saw it earlier because the TV's ahead of the internet, and we've been doing this incrementally, was that Trump's final argument, while it had some salient points, was mostly negating what Kamala has done and scolding her for what she should have done. Her final remarks, whether you agree with them or not, were a little bit more what I want to do, and not quite so much pointed at Trump for whatever misfiring and whatever mistakes he might have made. Again, Trump seems to have the upper hand in many people's eyes, but he's not really that great of a debater. All in all, he has trouble finding the sweet spot. Like I said, he has trouble saying things the right way to make the point more clear, especially for undecided voters. And so you can tell he's struggling. He's got the intention to make a lot of number of points, but then he falls back on his repetitious things about illegal immigration, correct though they may be. You'll notice he's got lots of fallback and default arguments because he can't find the really forward moving and effective arguments with the right wording and the right approach to really hit a home run here. He's like a batter that keeps hitting singles, but no doubles, triples, or home runs. And Trump did okay. I don't think he's going to lose a lot of support, but he could have done a lot better. And I think Kamala, while she didn't do great, to be completely honest, did a little bit better than I expected in her arguments. You can judge an argument not by whether you agree with it, but how it's said. If you want to know who was a little more articulate, I'm afraid it was Kamala. If you want to know who's trying to get at the truth, it's Trump, but he's having trouble enunciating it.
Yeah, man. Opinion. Yeah. Really good analysis there, Mark. And we're really pleased you were here with us tonight. Thanks for helping us wade through this, and thank all of you out there for watching it with us. Everybody out there in the chats, in the various chats. Great to see everybody. Thanks for the comments. And Mark, we'll get together offline and schedule some stuff. We got a couple of things we're gonna have to talk about soon.
Yeah, I still would like to have the Thought Criminals cookout somewhere in the greater Temple area. And I want to use my grill where you use mass media cartel newspapers to cook food. I want to try it.
All right.
I have it right here. You can hear it.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Mark. We'll talk to you soon. All right. There goes Mark Anderson. Okay. Let's see here. Infidel, over to you. It's getting late over there too. I'll let you jump out of here next, man. Anything to wrap up tonight?
No. I mean, I don't think anybody will change their mind from a debate, as we. I think we all know that. Was a fun. We got some drinks in.
Yeah.
Well, it was good to hang out with you guys, and never forget that tomorrow is September 11th. So don't forget who actually did that, and never forget the truth.
All right. Great final words. Thanks, Infidel. We'll talk soon. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Later, man. Okay. Grunt Smash, over to you. Anything else you want to throw out there, or anything to wrap up what we have just suffered through tonight?
Oh, man. I don't think so. That was obviously a giant shit show on both sides. But we powered through it. had a couple of drinks. This was about half full prior to.
Wow.
Nice.
That's a 175 liter. Like that's a handle.
Yep.
Call in tomorrow.
I don't have to work tomorrow. I can't handle it. No, that was a good time. Infidel kind of wrapped it up well. I'm gonna go back to the I guess my OG saying and question everything.
All right, man. Thanks for being here. Great timing, and we'll talk to you
Absolutely.
soon. All right, later, buddy. Whitebird, over to you. Thanks for sticking through this with us, man. I'm really glad you joined us tonight. I saw some shout outs to you in some of the various chats, so really glad you're able to be here, dude.
Well, thanks for having me.
Pussy out too, officially, everybody.
What's that?
You tried to pussy out. You're like, oh, I've already been drinking. I don't know, man.
Oh yeah. Well, I know. All right. Well, it was horrible.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of it. It was great to suffer through this atrocity together with friends and to pause for commentary and anybody that's able to stick it out. Sorry about I had a little mic issue in the beginning, but I just want to let everybody know that both of these parties don't give a shit about you. And they're talking around the issues. You know, collectively, the United States has wrecked North Africa and South America and the Middle East for the last 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, depending on the region. And these two candidates talked around the entire thing the entire time and pointed fingers at the guy with the blue tie or the guy with the red tie and, made it about women's issues and fake feely goody words and a bunch of talking points that are going to be chopped up in the media for the next 3 weeks. And if you don't want to vote in the fall, I'll be right there with you.
All right. Thanks, Whitebird, man. We'll talk to you again real soon, buddy. All right. There goes Whitebird. Ruckus, over to you. Save rounds, final thoughts. Let's put a pin in this atrocity in the timeline.
Nail in this coffin, as it were. My goodness, bro. Yeah, no, Whitebird, what he just said was so right on. But it's all like, isn't this exactly what we were expecting? Was there anything that happened tonight that technically we couldn't sit down and think really hard and say, what's going to happen? I think all of the things on the bingo card happened. I think all of our drinking talking points happened for the most part. This was all very much expected. Nothing new was learned here, except one thing. I learned something, Hesher, and I'm quite disappointed, actually. I'm not going to lie. But apparently the former prostitute doesn't want to frack. I'm kind of sad about this, but anyways, whatever that means. Anyways, it was kind of fun. That might just be the beer talking, which I did have quite a bit of. So ultimately, this did ultimately benefit women because, as I said, the beer I was drinking benefits women who make beer. So shout out to the women who make beer. Shout out to the audience. Shout out to you, Hesher, for hosting this thing on a Tuesday evening because we're going to have to do all of this again on a Thursday for a regular Boiler Room, so please tune into that. And I do have plans coming very soon. Stay tuned for a new version of the Daily Ruckus video format. So kind of excited about that and been making some tweaks, some fine-tuning, some changes, some updates to the website. So I know most of you have probably given up on the website. Please go check it out. You'd probably be like surprised, be like, whoa, wait a minute, there's new posts and it looks pretty and it's cool and I love it. So yeah, please do that. And it's only going to get better from here on out. So thanks for having me, Hesher. God bless each and every one of you and may God save this republic. Ruckus out.
All right. Thanks, Ruckus. Wow, what an interesting night, huh? And that's all she wrote. We're glad to put a nail in this one and eager, right, to see what is gonna happen next. Peace out.
That's it. Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.